Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Tales of the Great Unspoken, a comic book written and drawn by Aaron Augenblick. And this was published by Top Shelf in 1999. And it's got a weird oblong shape to it. And Aaron Augenblick, I don't know much about the guy. I don't think he's done many other comics other than this, because he's an animator, a very successful animator. He works on like Wonder Shows and Super Jail, a lot of those like Comedy Central cartoons, kind of for adults. But he decided to do a comic in 1999. This might be before his animation career took off. I don't know. So very nice logo here. Very simple cover. Little dedication for Shamrock Gardens and Morning Gin. First story's in color, and I guess this was like his character. I don't know his name. They never tell us. And we see this guy just drinking gin and smoking cigarettes early in the morning. As soon as it's 10 o'clock, he leaves the house. He shaves first, puts in some pomade, so it looks like he's trying to look his best. And he heads out. Goes into this cafe. And the woman who works there, when she turns around, you can just tell by his kind of bashful look that this is the main reason he goes to this cafe. He has a crush on this girl. She gives him his coffee and a donut. As he leaves, he gets one last glimpse of her. And when he gets home, he throws all the food and the coffee in the garbage, pours himself another gin, and we see him right where he started. So I like this. It's totally silent, but you totally get the impression of this guy. He's just like, loves this girl. He's never going to do anything about it. But he has this sad need to see her every day and waste his money on a donut and coffee. But basically just stays home and drinks gin. Kind of sad. Now, this is a totally different comic. I love the cartooning of this. This is so much fun. It's that kind of cartooning where you see it and you're like, I want to read this story. Like, this looks fun. This is a fucking crazy story. It almost has the feeling of like a crazy fever dream. We see this guy wake up. He's hungover. He says, what happened last night? And this little girl's in his bed and she says, good morning, lover. I'm your new girlfriend. And he's like, oh my God, you're a little girl. What the hell? And he gets out of there as fast as he can. And oh my God, the little girl says, he was a lousy lay anyway. Oh my God. So he runs to his house, and there's a robot newscaster who's saying, be on the lookout for this pervert who molested a little girl. This is an artist's interpretation. And, I guess that's supposed to be him. Pretty great cartoon there. It's almost like he got Wolvertoned out. And he says, oh, shit, I got to put on a disguise. I don't want people to recognize me. And, he's trying to be nonchalant. He goes up to this mother and her son. And he just says, oh, do you have the time? And the little kid says, look, Ma, it's that child molester. So he runs away, tries to escape. He realizes he's got to get out of town. But then the devil shows up, and the devil says, hey, I've always liked your style. And he gives him this box. And he says, the main character says, what is it? He says, it's whatever you want it to be, but be careful for what you wish for. It might come true. So the devil leaves. It starts to rain. This cartooning reminds me of I know this sounds weird, but it almost looks like, like Juice Swart. Maybe I'm thinking of another one of those Dutch underground cartoonists. It's really just a perfect little cartoony style. I really like it. So he opens the box. There's an umbrella in it. And it starts to basically fly. And he's flying above the clouds. And he sees a rainbow. He even sees a leprechaun with a pot of gold. And then this little guy in a jetpack, this weird little alien-looking creature. He zaps him with his space gun. And then we see the guy wakes up again. And he says, who are you? He's like a double is sleeping next to him. So they're gonna punch each other. And you hear crash. It turns out he was asleep next to a mirror, looking at himself in the mirror. This reminds me of an old cartoon, like just all these little gags. Like, he sees this picture on the wall and says, "Ew, who's that ugly bastard?" And the character in the picture says, "Go fuck yourself." Like, I can totally picture that. Well, not the fuck yourself, but that seems like a Fleischer cartoon gag. This pillow is anthropomorphic. And so he runs outside. He sees that little girl, and she yells for the police. And then we see that character from the first story with the big ears. I don't know if he's supposed to be like a devil himself or like an elf. He says, "Hey, can you help me out? Where's the exit?" And the devil guy's just like, I gave up trying to get out of here years ago. Do you have any booze on you? And then, oh my God, so I guess maybe I wasn't, I might be right. Because this looks like almost like Coco the Clown's mutant nephew. So this clown shows up. He's not very helpful, giving him stupid directions. And then the clown grabs the panel border. I love this. So the main character can step outside of the panel border and escape this weird place with all the rooms. But now, of course, he's in a void. He's like, this is even worse. So then he meets a robot who says, "I am your creator." It's almost like he's God. So he starts asking him philosophical questions. He's like, what's the meaning of life? Why did you create us? But he's not a very omniscient God. He's kind of a big dope. They also do some kind of fun stuff where the main character says, "Hey, who are they?" And the robot says, "That's us in the future." Because, he's looking at the future progression of panels. So he says goodbye to the robot, and all of a sudden he's zapped back to, I guess, reality, and it's still raining. And so it ends with him saying, "Thanks a lot, asshole," to the robot god. I really like this story. This is so fun. Now we have this is a two-tone story. And we see that elf guy again. He's driving down the road and he sees a road sign of like a bottle with wings. And then he looks up. There's tons of these bottles with wings. It's basically booze. It lands in his lap. He reaches for it. And I like this little fade out here. And then it just turns white. And then he wakes up. That was his hallucination. And he's drunk in his car and he just totally crashed into a sign. The straight style is pretty good. It's very crisp, his art style. It's not that exciting, but, everything's where it should be. It's just well drawn. You can kind of tell this guy's an animator, though. I don't know why I say that, but... So he just abandons his car, and a public phone rings. He picks up the phone, and it's this woman from his job. She says, "Hey, you're late for work. You better get here, or it's your ass." So he goes to his job. So this totally, once again, this feels like a dream. Like, I'm sure we've all had these dreams where, like, I'm late for work, but I don't quite understand why or what's going on. So he goes to work, some weird robot factory. And that woman who called him, she's like half robot. She's got a human head. And when he goes into the boss's office, he basically says, "We're going to let you go, Frank." I guess that's his name, Frank. He says, "You're a terrible salesman. You haven't made a sale in 2 months, but I'm going to give you one last chance. There's this one customer in the city who's never bought anything from us. The only person who's never bought anything from us. If you can make a sale to this person, you'll get to keep your job." I like that design on this guy. So, of course, he agrees to do it. He wants to keep his job. The other thing is he gives him a suitcase and he says, I'm not even going to tell you what you're selling. A good salesman can sell anything, even if he doesn't know what it is. So whatever is in this suitcase, maybe it's nothing. You've got to try to sell it to this person. So he goes to this hotel where this person is. It's, this weird alternate reality. So there's an elevator operator like in the old days. And this guy's just making fun of him, basically. He says, I can tell you're a salesman. You smell like booze and flop sweat. I love this. This character's pretty funny. He says, I don't mean no disrespect on you, son. I just think salesmen are lower than shit. And as he leaves, he says, you really ain't so bright, are you, kid? She's totally insulting him. So the guy goes to the apartment. He's drinking out of his flask. This guy obviously has a drinking problem. And a little kid answers the door. The little kid says, hold on a second. My old man is finishing up something. After a few minutes, he says, okay, he's ready. Oh, before that happens, we see the cartoon that the little kid is watching. And it's basically a cartoon version of what just happened to this, to Frank. He's drunk and he hits a pole. And then he has a confrontation with his boss and has to sell something to someone. So he's finally ushered into the room. And it's this weird, kind of, once again, like a half robot guy. Or maybe it's just a giant iron lung. And this guy says, he kind of interrupts him, his pitch, and says, son, I got to say that's the worst sales pitch I've ever heard in my life. And you know what? I should know. I used to work at that company. I was the best salesman they ever had. Pull up a chair and I'll teach you a thing or two. I think the reason why his art, it's competent. It's very computery. I have a feeling this was all made on a computer. I could be totally wrong, but it has that feel of just like almost a little too perfect. We see the guy in the iron lung as a young man, kind of a foppish guy. And he talks about how he was the best salesman, and then he kind of lost his way, and his sales went down, and eventually he ended up in a mental asylum. He kind of lost it. I guess his moment of clarity, or his moment of he hits bottom. He was trying to sell sex toys to a group of kids at a schoolyard. That's how desperate he was to make a sale. And so they caught him and put him in the mental institution. He says, first my mind went, then my body went. And that's why he's in this weird contraption. And so this company, the one that Frank works for some reason, not only were they not sympathetic to this guy who gave his whole life to the company, they also resented him for some reason. They felt like he let him down. So they've been sending their shittiest salesmen to harass this guy ever since. So it's almost like the sick game they play with him. I just love that idea, how weird that is. It's twisted. And then finally, Frank just says, I'm sorry to waste your time. Sorry about that. I'll leave. But then the guy says, hey, by the way, what in the hell were you trying to sell me anyway? And Frank doesn't answer. So Frank walks down the street. He's just sitting at a park bench drinking his hooch. And he opens the suitcase. And there's one of those winged bottles in it. It takes flight and flies away. And then, once again, the public telephone starts ringing. And that's how it ends, a very nebulous end. And pretty dreamlike. It'll probably be a loop. And they'll be like, hey, you're late for work. But I kind of like the story. Not as much as that really cartoony one. But he really captures that like just bizarre dreamlike quality. But more so, it's funny. There's just a lot of good jokes in here, and also it just keeps you guessing like what's gonna happen next. Here's the indicia at the end. It's kind of weird. This is the only place you'll find out that this is the work of Aaron Augenblick. Not on the cover, not on the first page. You kind of have to look for it. He published it himself, and Top Shelf distributed it. And I think that's why I like it. I gotta say, Top Shelf does a lot of stuff I don't like. Their aesthetic, I don't know if it's like just I'm too old to get it or something. I don't know. But it's pretty rare that I like a Top Shelf comic. And I like this one because they didn't really make it. They just distributed it for this guy. And then we have I like this back cover, just showing all the characters you'll see within. Very nice colors. Nice color choices. And that's it. Tales of the Great Unspoken by Aaron Augenblick. I have no idea where you'd find this. I think it's weird size. I have a feeling it's like hard to find in comic shops, back issue bins and such. But if you see it, pick it up. I bet it'll be cheap. I don't think anyone cares about this comic. But it's pretty sharp, nice production values. Overall, really like this. I was actually surprised. This is one of the comics I took off my shelf thinking, I should read this because I got to whittle down my comics. I don't even remember what this comic was like. Maybe I don't even like it now. And I was pleasantly surprised last night to reread it and be like, oh no, this is great. That's why I kept it, I guess. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.